What up, what up, what up? Your boy Justin Henry, Tyler Health here. We are back. It's been a while since you've seen our faces, man. Obviously, it's been a long off season, but fantasy football couldn't come back enough, man. Glad to be back on. The schedule releases coming up, but fantasy drafts have started. Best ball leagues have started. Dynasty rookie drafts are in full motion, Tyler. We got a lot to talk about, actually.
Absolutely. It's great to be here, and it's great to get back into the swing of fantasy. It's always this time of the year is always really exciting. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, on the agenda for today, we're going to answer a few questions for you. Like, who's the best rookie to take, right? We're going to talk about who the best rookie to take in fantasy is right now. We're going to go over the first round. Who are some of the first round targets? Who are some of the first round fades? Me and Tyler are getting to both of those players that we like just based on early ADP. And then towards the back end, we're going to have some controversial players we may have talked about last year, some hard decisions we're going to make that we're seeing early in drafts right now. We're going to talk about some of those as well. But Tyler, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about the rookies, right? Obviously, we saw the draft last month and we knew the talent coming in, but when you get the spots, when you get the landing spots, it's always when things shake out the most. In the top rookie, obviously, for fantasy purposes, even more so than Travis Hunter, was Ashton Genty. I think that was the player that everybody was, where is he going to go? What team's going to go to? Landed with the Las Vegas Raiders under Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly are now there as a head coach and offensive coordinator. Couldn't have asked for a better landing spot at the number 6 pick there for Ashton Genty.
Yeah, I think Ashton Genty, obviously, like what you said, landed in a good spot. And I think some people are also they look at the Raiders and they say, like, this offense isn't going to be any good. And I think it's honestly has the chance to be a decent offense with Geno Smith there. I think it's going to be a lot better than what it has been in years past. You also have Brock Bowers. You have an underrated wide receiver in Jacoby Myers. They have Jack. I think it's Jack Besh. So they got some pieces, and I think Ashton Genty walks into a situation here where he's like the undisputed number one guy here who's going to get a ton of touches, and you have a Chip Kelly offense now that can be, once again, exciting. And you also have Pete Carroll, where we've seen him in the past use a guy. So in my opinion, like, I feel really good about Ashton Genty compared to other running backs coming out in the past, where it's just set up for him to succeed year one and just have a really good fantasy season, because the workload just looks like it's going to be really big for him this year heading into year one.
Yeah, obviously, like, Zamir White was trash last year. Guys, Dylan Labe never really got a chance to show his worth, and they were rocking with Alexander Madison and a bunch of
McCormick at the end of the year.
They just didn't have any guys, and really didn't add anybody outside of Raheem Mostert for veteran presence. So Genty's going to have the full workload. And even at the receiver position, this was a Brock Bowers-led offense last year. Jacoby Myers had an excellent season, but even the passing game didn't see a whole lot of additions. And so Genty's going to get a lot of work and be the focal point of this offense. As a rookie, though, I do have concerns. And I think this is not concerns about him production-wise, because I think he's going to have a phenomenal rookie season. It's just expectation-wise from the fantasy community in year one. We typically do this with rookies where we're looking for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns and 50 catches out the backfield. And it's like, for rookies, they have to come in and know passing protection. They got to know assignments, got to be able to prove that they can actually perform at an NFL level as a rookie. So I think last year it was Marv. The year before that it was Bijan. It's like every year these rookies tend to go in like the first round. So I have a little bit of concern about Ashton Genty, who I profile as probably like a 12 to 1,300 yard back, somewhere in the 8 touchdown range with this Raiders offense, somewhere around 30 to 40 catches. And I think that's a really damn good season for a rookie running back. I just don't know if that's first round material,
No, I understand. I think that this is what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to predict what's going to happen. All right. I think that Ashton Genty will finish. Like, if you go back over the past 10 years and look at running backs drafted inside the top 12, like, it's 100% hit rate that these guys are RB1s their first season. But what happens a lot of time is they're more like RB 6, 7, 8, like in that range. They're more of like a mid to back end RB1. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with Ashton Genty. He's going to get pushed up the board. Like, you know what's going to happen. People are just going to be like, man, I just really want Ashton Genty. And that's fine. Like, I do think he's going to be a workhorse running back. and production is one of the best predictive stats or whatever you want to look at for running backs heading into the season. So he's going to have pretty good fantasy success just because of his production, but he's going, and he's going to get pushed up the board. He's right now a back end first round pick, but he's slowly going to become a mid first round pick. And do I think that he's fine there? Honestly, it's not bad, but I just think that there's a couple other guys that I probably would rather go in that range. But I still think that he'll have a successful fantasy season. But do I think he's going to be like RB1, top 3? Probably not. But I think he'll be fine. A fine pick if you really want to get Ashton Jeanty.
I think he's a great floor pick. Like if you're just looking for a young running back that can come in and you want to have a hit, like you said, you're not having to worry about the older running backs. So there's a lot of old running backs at the top right now. So you don't have to worry about old running backs. I think Jeanty will be fine. Like I said, I think there's a point where we're talking about him potentially as like a top 3 running back candidate. But there's a lot of good running backs in the league right now. So I think that's where I probably have my biggest concern. I think you're also taking him over a lot of really good receivers, especially in your half point and full point PPR leagues. So I think in standard leagues, Jeanty's probably gonna have a really nice floor, probably a top 12 to 15 type pick. I think it's worth that. But I think in your half point PPR and your PPR leagues, he's got to prove that he can pass catch at a higher level. And in this Pete Carroll offense, I mean, beast mode, we kind of know that's like the comp that's been around too for him is, being able to shed tackles the way he does. Marshawn was a great running back, and I don't think he had too many 1,500-yard plus seasons. So I think even under Pete Carroll, I know Chip Kelly loves to run the football. I have mild concerns there. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll see where ADP lands. So I think you talked about it. That's going to be the big differentiator between all of this. What about the receivers, Tyler? We had 2 receivers taken in the top 10, Travis Hunter and Ted McMillan. And obviously, let's go with Travis Hunter first, who there was like, is he going to play DB? Is he going to play receiver first? He's already been taking reps in, OTAs right now at receiver. Yeah. Liam Cohen has said we're going to get him up to speed at receiver first, cornerback a little bit later in the summer. What were your thoughts when Travis Hunter went to the Jags, who already have a phenomenal receiver in Brian Thomas?
I was pretty happy about this one. And the reason being is I do think that I don't break down film at a high rate. I let the professionals do that. And all the professionals that do that, Steve Smith, I love the Dynasty Nerds. They're pretty accurate about all of their stuff. All of them think that Travis Hunter can be like an alpha, like elite tier wide receiver. And even a lot of the analytics people think the same thing. So for me personally, I'm all in on Travis Hunter. I'm all in kind of on this Jags offense going forward. I think the biggest question mark is kind of Liam Cohen, how he is as a head coach, because it's a lot different. We've seen a lot of offense coordinators who are very good as OCs. Yeah, Duval. We've seen a lot of good OCs become head coaches, and they're not a good fit at being a head coach. So I think it comes down to kind of like what Liam Cohen does as a head coach. But I believe in the offense, what he's done at Tampa Bay. I think that this offense can be very good. So I'm really interested in Travis Hunter, especially for where he's currently going. Now, he's another guy that you're going to see the rookies move up a lot, especially as we get closer to the season and all the training camp news comes out. And with him in particular, just because people are still a little bit worried, is he going to play, cornerback? Is he going to play wide receiver? I think as the season progresses, off-season training camp progresses, we're going to see him playing wide receiver, and he's going to shoot up the board. But I really like him. And even Ted McMillan, I like where he's currently going as well. He's a guy that I really like coming out to, very productive, young breakout age, going to a situation where he's really the undisputed number 1 wide receiver for a guy that we saw last year, and Bryce Young have a really good, I don't want to say really good, but much better than what he was early on the season, finally relaxed and was productive down the stretch. So, and another coach, offense coordinator that I believe in, Dave Canales too there. So I think both of them right now are very good values. The only, like with Ashton Jeanty, you're going to have that hype. They're going to get really pushed up the boards. But right now they're going kind of like in the 4th, 5th round, which I'm fine with. I'll take them there. I like that.
I think for rookie receivers, it's tough. I think they're going to also get pushed up because of what the receivers did last year. Like when you look at Brian Thomas, you look at Malik Nabers, you look at Lab McConkey, like you see what the rookies did last year. And everybody's going to want some of that, you know?
Yeah.
And with Travis Hunter, I think the one issue that I have is that you got a Brian Thomas on your team, a guy who is a mega alpha receiver, him damn self. And he's going to command a lot more work from Trevor Lawrence this year, who I think is going to be – I mean, we say this every year about Trevor, but it's like it's time for Trevor to take that lead.
It's like now or never kind of.
Yeah, and when I think about Travis Hunter, Tyler, it's one of those things where I think he will have some crazy weeks. I think there's going to be some big weeks in his future, but I also see some weeks where he's going to have some duds. He reminds me a lot of like an Odell Beckham, not just play style, but I think output-wise, where I think in New York, there was weeks where we would see him go for like 150 and 3 TDs, and then there's other weeks where he's 3 catches for 40 yards. And I think we'll see a lot of that with Travis Hunter, who doesn't need to be the guy because they have another guy on their team.
Yeah.
And so with Liam Cohen, obviously we saw what he was doing with Godwin, with Mike Evans, what he did with the Rams, with Cooper Kupp. And, you know, he's had some really strong receiving cores. And I think getting him another set of strong receivers, I don't see any issues with Liam Cohen, even as a head coach. And we talked about failed head coaches like Chip Kelly. We just talked about it. There are some times where that happens.
Yeah.
But when you have an elite quarterback, elite receivers, I can see this playing out very well for the Jags. And as far as Ted McMillan, you know, Ted McMillan is a player that, you know, he doesn't profile to me as like a guy, like everybody gives him the Drake London comp. I think he's a tier below that. And I don't think that's anything wrong, but I think where he's going in drafts right now, he stands to be probably a steal where he's at right now in the wide receiver 40 type range. I think that he's more of a wide receiver 3, just based off the fact he'll be the number 1 for Carolina. You know, it's either him or Xavier Legette. It'll probably be McMillan on most weeks. So I love what they did with the pick there. I'm not as excited about McMillan as I am Travis Hunter because I think Hunter's upside on a weekly basis, tradability, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes that matters. The star power is there, but I think McMillan will be an instant contributor in fantasy.
Yeah.
I think there's value with having players like that.
Well, one other thing that I'll say about Travis Hunter too is that you do have Brian Thomas Jr. there, and this can be my hot take. All right. This is going to be my hot take. I think that Travis Hunter is going to be the one there. I think next year we're going to look at this situation and it's going to be, Travis Hunter is the number 1 wide receiver and Brian Thomas is
this year or next year.
I think it's going to happen as the season progresses and Travis Hunter gets, because the one thing Travis Hunter, like you have to consider too, is like the dude was playing both sides. So he's never fully invested into one side. So I think this team, you look at everything. There's no player in this NFL draft that has more draft capital already poured into him than Travis Hunter, because the team gave up so much to move up to get him. So there's already so much, and they're already saying like, that's going to be our full-time wide receiver. I think like this is a true guy who's going to be one of the very best wide receivers in the NFL in the next couple of years. I think he's going to overtake Brian Thomas. Instead of Brian Thomas being the number 1, it's going to be, all right, Travis Hunter's the number 1. And then Brian Thomas Jr. is he's like the 1B. It's going to be one of those situations. And last thing I'll say too is they got rid of all their other guys there. You got rid of Evan Ingram. You got rid of Christian Kirk. You have Brenton Strange there, but it's really open for these 2 guys to just have everything kind of funneled through them, where both of them can coexist. You know, as long as Trevor Lawrence is kind of taking that step, and as long as obviously he's still rookie, we need to see him in the NFL. But if Travis Hunter can take the step that everybody thinks he can and be, you know, one of these really good wide receivers, like this offense, these 2 guys can coexist and have really good fantasy weeks on, you know, weekly basis.
Yeah, 1A, 1B, I think is definitely going to be it. Probably next year. I think this year there'll be some kind of learning curve, especially if he does play both sides, which I think the anticipation is that he's going to be playing both sides at times for this Jags team. So a lot in store. And obviously, you know, that backfield's got a lot of running backs there right now. So we'll see how that all shakes out.
Who do you think is going to be the guy?
I think it's ETN. I think it's still ETN.
Yeah, I want ETN or Bayshall too, and those are the 2 guys I'd prefer.
I think that's one of them dynasty things. And Tyler, that's really a good point to talk about. We talked about ADP kind of creeping up, right? Like you're saying, as time goes on, you know, the rookies obviously Genty, Travis Hunter, McMillan, they're all going to go up. They're all going to go up the draft board, right? But there's this dynasty thing going on, and I feel like more people are playing dynasty right now. In this time period right now where the draft goes on, free agency, like this is a heavy dynasty time. How are you, like, because I think dynasty is affecting redraft way too much right now. And I think last year was probably one of the better years for the dynasty community. Like I told you so, but everybody's a rookie scout. Everybody is an analyst. Everybody is a college film guru. And we all know how it translates to the league. I'm finding it hard right now. Actually, I'm finding it easy, I should say. I find it hard to agree with the rankings because I find it very easy for me to do my own rankings and research for redraft. And I'm like, oh, I'm scooping up all the old heads. I become this old guy savant now. But I think Dynasty is really affecting redraft right now.
No, I would agree. I think this time of the year in particular, just because like rookie hype and you got people doing their rookie drafts. So a lot of people are really excited. And once training camp starts to pick up and we, because the one thing with the rookies is if we look at this year's rookie class, the running back situation or this running back class is touted to be one of the best ones we've seen maybe ever. And so, and a guy like, we kind of just talked about Bashal too, and he's kind of really climbing up the draft boards, but he's also finding himself in a really particular situation where is Travis Etienne the one here? He kind of lost his job and was kind of, splitting stuff with Tank last year. So you have this ambiguous backfield right now with him, but yeah, like there's other guys. I mean, Kyle Williams. I mean, I do like Kyle Williams, but he's been flying up draft boards. He's going already in like the 11th round. So you're going to have some of these, but I also think that they're going to kind of fall back once like more of the casuals get in who aren't going to be as into like some of the rookies, and they'll just be taking like the guys that they know, the names that they know, and it'll kind of even itself out. But right now, like, yeah, I think there's a lot of rookies, and there's some guys that I think are definitely deserving to go very high because there's some really good players in the draft. But overall, yeah, I mean, you always get it this time of the year.
Well, it's like you do all this homework and, it's easy because then we close the page on all the rookies from last year and all those guys get thrown to the trash, right? Like you talk about Kyle Williams, that was Javon Baker and Jalen Polk last year. Everybody on the Patriots, one of these guys is going to hit, and I think we get this every single year where, one or two rookies hit and then now it's, oh shit, I can't miss out on the next rookie because they changed the game, Puka Nacua and Lad McConkey, and you get kind of these guys that really step up their rookie years that the dynasty community loves. But then it's like now in redraft, we're seeing, I'll be honest, like Omarion Hampton is a name that I think he's a beast, obviously, but he's pushed up now to like the top 25 running backs, and I could see it being like within the top 20 running backs in ADP.
Easy smash. What are you talking about?
This is what I'm talking about because
smash.
He's not even the guaranteed starter right now. The team signed Najee Harris to be the starter, and is Najee great? No, he's not. I wouldn't say I will be the first to admit Najee's not as great as I thought he was going to be, right? Like he's not a player, even fantasy-wise, that's going to be super relevant. But where's Omarion Hampton going to have his shine? Probably in the second half of the year. So you have to bake that into ADP too, and I think everybody's expecting him to come out, be the lead guy because they drafted him in the first round, take over all the carries. We've seen Greg Roman and his other Harbaugh brother do this before with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, where Gus Edwards was the lead back. J.K. Dobbins had to earn the role, and then it was a role reversal later on. So for me, I'm a little bit more like, hey, pump the brakes until we know that Hampton is a starter. Why is he going as a top 25 guy, potentially a top 20 guy on like I said, on Underdog right now? I want to say he's the RB18, which is wild.
Yeah. Oh, I'm taking him. Like I look at it this way. I mean, come on. If Najee Harris, like we talked about him all the time, like he's had ample opportunities. And I know that people will say, well, this is a different offense in Los Angeles. If he signed, I want to say it was a 1 year, $3 million deal with the Chargers. Like the Chargers then took Omarion Hampton at pick 20, I think it was
22, something like that.
Yeah. Like they're clearly invested in Omarion Hampton. And I just think he fits Harbaugh's what he wants to do so perfectly. And I do agree that early on, it may be annoying and you're going to have people that are going to be like, why'd I draft him? But I fully expect like a second half of the season breakout where like he's clearly the guy. He's overtaken Najee. Everything's there for him. So for me personally, like I'm okay with that, especially as we get like James Conner's a fine running back because he'll go even before James Conner. It's more of like James Cook range is kind of where he's going. And I'm fine with taking that kind of risk because Omarion Hampton can basically be like everything you want James Cook to be, except He's a full-time player, and he's touching the ball way more than James Cook is. So he's a guy that I like. Now, also on Underdog, I'm kind of building my team a little bit differently, so I don't take him that much because it's more wide receivers. But we'll see where he ends up, because he's another guy that, yeah, he could also get a lot of hype, or he could be a couple years ago, Jonathan Taylor. Like, his rookie season was frustrating, but he also, like, as the season progressed, started to see more and more work. And I feel like that's going to be kind of a similar situation where season progresses, more and more work from top 12 running back down the stretch who can put up some big spike weeks like we saw J.K. Dobbins have.
Yeah, it's tough because you have to kind of wait on some of those players. And I don't mind waiting on players, but then there's also the chance that they just don't emerge their rookie year. And so that's the you talk about risky players. So maybe like a Christian McCaffrey's risky this year because of his injuries, right? But sometimes rookies are a little bit more risky because you're basing it a lot off of their college production. If it doesn't pan out, now you're kind of asked out, or you're 1-3 or you're 2-5, and you're like, do I cut this guy because he's not getting the PT I expected? When we do see a lot of rookies break out late in the year, you have to hope that you're also in the playoff picture or in the championship contention for best ball. So a couple other rookies that have
one last thing I'll say. One last thing
about Hampton.
Over the past 10 years, running backs drafted in the first round, 80% hit rate of being an RB1 their first year. 80%. These guys get drafted because the capitals that they want to invest. So I'm just saying, like, it's a pretty good bet there for him to be an RB1 year one.
I'm not mad at the hit rate, but there are some other running backs too, Tyler, that have some good, opportunities. RJ Harvey is one. The team, the Broncos traded up to draft RJ Harvey, who it looked like he was going to be a little bit further down the board, but should walk into a very nice workload there. And then Caleb Johnson too, I think landed in a really good spot for your Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Obviously with Jaylen Warren there, which running back outside of the first round guys, which running back are you kind of looking at? Quishon Junkins is also there. Like, which one do you think could have that's in a really nice role to start off? Travion Henderson. Like, there's a lot of impact running backs that could be had here after the top, like, probably 20, 25 go.
So it's what I'll say is dependent on ADP, because RJ Harvey's a guy I can already see, like, he's been going earlier and earlier in underdog drafts. And I think he's going to get pushed up really high. And I think, rightfully so, because he walks into a situation where, you got Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime there. And, you got Sean Payton, who likes to utilize these kind of guys. So he's a guy that I do like, and I think he can have a really good season there. But he's also another guy that I just might get pushed up too far. Caleb Johnson, I obviously for my Steelers, I do like as well, but he's another guy that I think it's going to be a split kind of thing, kind of like similar to what it was last year with him, with Najee and Jaylen Warren, right? One guy I really like, and I think he'll fall, especially in redraft leagues, your more casual leagues, because he plays on a bad team and he's not as sexy as the other guys. That's Travion Henderson. The reason why I love Travion in full point PPR leagues, that's the kind of league that I would want to draft him in. He's the best pass pro running back in this draft class, the best in pass protection, he's dynamic. He has home run ability, very good after the catch, second level moves, spin moves, jukes, all of it. He's like the complete package, except he's a smaller guy. But guess what? He has Ramondre there. So he has the guy who can be the bruiser between the tackles kind of guy, and then he's able to be the change of pace, the Jahmyr Gibbs-esque type back. Obviously not going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, but he can fit that role, and he plays on the Patriots, a team that I think people are going to be like, ew, I don't really want as many guys on this team because I don't think they're going to be that good. So he might fall down compared to the other guys, but he got that second round draft capital. They're clearly invested into him, made some additions to the offensive line. So he's a guy that I really like, just depending on where he ends up going as we get closer to, August.
Yeah, dude, he has a lot of upside in that offense. And, with Vrabel coming in there, we know Mike Vrabel likes to run the football. So I think this is one of those situations where one of these guys is going to pop. And, we talked about first rounders that are as top 12 running backs. I think one of those guys that we just talked about is going to be like a top 12-ish type back. And I'm not sure which one it is, to be honest with you. Judkins, if it's RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Henderson, but one of those guys is going to get pushed up. I think Henderson in PPR league is going to be one of those safe floor kind of players, probably catches 50, 60 balls, probably going to have somewhere close to 1,200 to 1,300 total yards. Like, he's going to be a guy. I really like Judkins, though, and I think he landed in a prime spot there with the Cleveland Browns, especially with Joe Flacco starting. Like, I think that they will be able to get him the football in ample amount of times and probably run his ass into the ground. You know, they've been looking for a back since Nick Chubb's, you know, his injuries have kind of derailed things, and they've, you know, ran out Jerome Ford, and there's been all these, you know, different backs over the year. But to get Judkins I think they got him second round, right? Got him in the second round.
He went before Travion. I think he was the third running back off the board.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a lot of hype in college too.
Yeah.
But now he goes to a spot in Cleveland where they're going to have to run the football in a tough AFC North. I think this is the perfect. To be honest, out of those tier backs, he's like one of my favorite backs in this class. Like, as far as immediate production. Now later on down the line,
for redraft, you're saying?
For redraft, outside of Genty, I think he might be my second favorite running back in this class.
The only problem that I have is just the Browns offense. That's the only problem. I think, you know, obviously I want it to be Joe Flacco, but I also think that, like, it just might be a revolving door where it's, God, Kenny Pickett, my God, Dylan Gabriel, like, you know, Shadur, but they're still rookies. The offensive line isn't great there. I do like Quinshawn a lot, like the running back Quinshawn. I like Judkins a lot. It's just the only pushback that I'll give is just I have more confidence in that Patriots offense right now going forward. I think that Patriots offense not going to be great this year, but I do think it's going to get better and better. And like, this is a team that could be decent this year, especially with Vrabel. It's just, I think the Browns want one more year being pretty bad. They got that extra first round pick next year. Like, let's just be bad one more year and then, you know, start to build. That's the only pushback, but I do like Quinshawn, the player, for sure.
Yeah, it's weird, man, because with redraft, you know, you got to kind of like anticipate. For rookies, it's weird because you have to say, like, all right, who do I think is NFL ready? Because the NFL doesn't always draft players who are NFL ready. Sometimes they're looking 2-3 years down the line. And so it's interesting to see how everything goes, man. But as far as redraft is a whole different beast. And I think it's time, Tyler, we got to get into this first round, bro, because it's so controversial. And I think this year at the top of redraft drafts, you know, there's always a saying like, you know, this is a running back draft or this is a wide receiver draft. This year, like, bro, you could take a running back first. You could take a wide receiver first in the first round. There's really, really good talent. And there's talent like in the second round that probably should be first round talent and vice versa. So let's talk about this number one pick. Because I think this is this is me and you territory right now. Our guys are up here in contention for the number one picks. Guys that we've talked about last year as number one picks are here yet again, man. Bijan and Jamar Chase, is that what we're doing again this year?
Yeah, I have Bijan ranked as my RB1. Now, I will say, I think it's like the top three. Like, I feel pretty good about the top three. I even feel good about Devon Achane. He goes later. Like, he honestly goes in the second round. Like, I'm fine
as
with
the number one pick.
No. Like, I'm saying the top three running backs, I feel like can go as the number one pick. If you want to take Jahmyr Gibbs, have at it. Like, I'm fine with that. Saquon. I do, in my opinion, I look at Jamar Chase as like the undisputed number one wide receiver. And the reason being is just because you got Joe Burrow. Like, it looks like it's a run back situation from last year where the defense probably isn't going to be very good once again. This offense, they're going to have to lean into it. We know Jamar Chase, how good he can be when him and Joe Burrow are healthy. Like, if these two guys are healthy, I would be shocked if Jamar Chase is not at the very least a top three wide receiver. So I feel really good. Or another guy that I'm going to say, like, I don't even think it's a dark horse-esque pick, but like, he was going there last year, CeeDee Lamb. Like, CeeDee Lamb's back. As long as Dak is healthy and CeeDee is healthy, like, I know some people are looking at George Pickens coming in here. I think George Pickens will be fine, but like, CeeDee Lamb is one of the very best wide receivers in the league. There's plenty of targets here. I think CeeDee Lamb will get fed once again, and I would not be shocked if he's, finishes wide receiver 1 once again, just because like that's how good he is. Those are the guys that I'm really looking at as the number 1 picks in fantasy right now.
I think I've done a couple mocks already. Surprisingly, I've already done a few mocks, and I know this doesn't tell the full story, right? Because when we get closer to August, it's going to be a lot different. But what I'm finding is that there's a lot of value with receivers later on in this draft. The running backs have been pushed up, and I think we talked about the rookie running backs having a big impact. I think a lot of those guys are going to start to climb up the board as well. So the one player I like Bijan as my number 1 pick, because I think that if I was to bet on somebody having a mega season this year, I think that's the guy that I would bet on having it, right? Saquon had a mega season last year, but there's also, he's older. Injuries will play a part. Championship run, longer season last year. Like there's a lot of the fact that the RB1 from last year doesn't normally translate to the next year. There's a lot of factors that go into that thought. So it's more of a gut call than anything, because I think Saquon is elite. I just don't want to take him at my number 1 spot. Whereas Bijan, the way he finished last season, Tyler, when Michael Penix came in there, scoring 2 touchdowns a game, consistently over 100 yards total offense. Like, I think Bijan has one of those seasons in store. This team fully embraced him being the guy. And Tyler Algier thing that was earlier part of the season, that's no longer. If he plays 17 games, I'm betting on him having – and he didn't have like a lot of long touchdown runs last year. It was kind of like he struggled a lot early on and still finished as – I know he finished as the top 5 guy. I don't know where he finished.
He was RB3.
RB3 at the end of the season. So I think for me, Bijan is going to be my RB1. And it's tough because I really like Jamar Chase too. And he kind of quieted a lot of my concerns last year. He stayed healthy. He did have some of the blow-up games, right? Those 40-point, 50-point games that really carried his season, but he was a little bit more consistent down the stretch. I still carry some of those concerns, Tyler, where he has been injury-prone in the past. He has been kind of driven by the 50-point games, the 40-point games, which I'm sure he's going to have again this year. But I think Justin Jefferson had a very quiet season, so I don't know if it's as clear to me with J.J. McCarthy coming in. I don't know if it's as clear to me wide receiver 1, Jamar Chase should be the first pick off the board. I'll give him wide receiver 1. I just don't know about
we're really doing this with JJ again. Listen, JJ was fantastic, but I'll tell you, Justin Jefferson last year, lowest points per game total since his rookie season. Yes, he finished as wide receiver 2, but Puka Nacua finished with more points per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, was 4.4 points per game less than JJ was. And you just said it. The biggest problem is JJ McCarthy could be Sam Darnold, or even better, or he could be worse.
Or worse.
We have no idea if he's worse. And that's why, for me personally, and I've talked about this, and this was the same thing last year. Like, I feel great. CeeDee Lamb could be wide receiver 1. There's no question in my mind that can happen.
I don't see that.
100%.
I don't see that.
Jahmyr Gibbs could be RB1. Saquon Barkley could be RB1. I think that there's a lot of variance with Justin Jefferson. I would be surprised if he was wide receiver 1, unless JJ McCarthy is like really, really good, which he could be. But I also would not be shocked if Justin Jefferson falls to like 16 points per game, because JJ McCarthy is just not very good.
No, there's no chance. He's too good for that. He's too good for that.
He's not too good for that.
Justin Jefferson is too good for that.
He just had 18 fantasy points per game. It could drop 2 if JJ McCarthy is bad. Like, there's a chance he's bad.
We're not doing that with JJ. We're not doing that with Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is elite.
I'd rather have Amon-Ra over Justin Jefferson. He's safer.
You got a wide receiver 5 right now? That's absolutely insane if you do.
No, he's 4.
You got Chase, CD, St. Brown. You got Malik over him?
No, not Malik.
Okay, so you got him at 4.
Yeah, 4. And there, I understand that there's higher upside with Justin Jefferson, but like, who's safer right now, knowing their quarterback situation, knowing their teams? Him or Amon-Ra? Amon-Ra is safer.
They're both the same 1,500 yards. Both of them are. And Justin Jefferson just has way more upside.
There's a chance JJ could be terrible. He could be
There's a chance his offense for the Lions goes to shit without Ben Johnson.
I'm sure. I
still believe. I don't want to say go to shit because I think it's still going to be good.
No, I think it's still going to be good. It could take a step back, maybe. For sure. That could happen.
What about the rest of the first round, man? Like, obviously at the back end, I think, to be honest, there's years past where I'm like, oh, I don't really care, bro. I love any pick, right? Like years past. Just based off of early ADP right now, that 9 through 12 is going to be absolutely mind-boggling. Like, you're going to have to make some very hard decisions at the back end of this draft because we talked about it. I think the first 6 picks are like CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, Chase, Jetta. Like, you're going to have top elite tier talent. But that back end of the first round, top end of the second round, you have to just take the guys you like. I mean, we're talking the back end of the first round right now. You got Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, your Ashton Jeanty, Christian McCaffrey. At the receiver position, Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas, Puka Nacua. He goes in the middle of the round sometimes too. Like A.J. Brown, like there's guys that Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson, Drake, you could throw a ton of names there at that back end of the first round, top end of the second round. You are going to have to make tough decisions, and every draft is going to be different.
Yeah. No, I like the back end of the first round. All the names that you just like all the names that you mentioned, like having like Amon-Ra and a Devon Achane start, like that just feels silly. Like
you can't because St. Brown's going like middle of the first round, middle to like late.
And underdog, like he goes from pick 7. I've seen him go to pick 12.
Underdog. The best ball rankings don't equate to redraft at all.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not, bro. You look at last year, like it does not.
All right.
Normally, I would say the best ball rankings, they prioritize like the big play guys. Like I would say that they push back.
All right, fair. Well, then I mean Devon Achane. So what you're saying, like Devon Achane is going to be a first round pick?
I think he's going to be a first round pick.
No, I think maybe
especially in the second round.
Yeah. Well, all right. If you're going to say Devon Achane, what like you could go Amon-Ra, Jonathan Taylor, like that's just Bijan Robinson and Garrett Wilson because Garrett Wilson right now is that like I love that start compared to the other start where like last year it was like there's like 2 picks, 3 picks, and then it was like Marv.
Well,
Chris Olave.
Marv for y'all, not Marv for me.
Chris Olave, but even like Drake London, like it was okay. So I feel like this year there's a lot of really good high-end talent because you obviously got Nico, you got Malik. Like there's just so many good guys that all right, they want to go with Amon-Ra. Well, then that means Malik is falling a little bit. So I mean, I love it. The one guy that personally I like, don't get me wrong, we kind of talked about him earlier. I'm just skipping out on Brian Thomas Jr. in this range. I'd rather go with Malik. I'd rather go with, Nico Collins. I'd much rather go with Puka Nacua. Like there's other guys that I'd rather take Devon Achane once again, because I do think that Travis Hunter is going to be an elite tier wide receiver. And I'd just rather go with those other guys. But that, if he's there in the second round, I mean, obviously I'll still take him, but I don't think he will be. I think he's going to be right there with Malik. Like those two guys are going to go neck to neck, and I'd much rather have Malik.
A few guys that have dropped out of the first round, right? I don't want to talk about fades quite yet because I think the first round could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think guys that are completely out on the first round right now that were in there last year. Number 1, your guy, Breece Hall. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey. Right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, these guys were high-end picks last year, no longer in the first round. Another guy, Tyreek Hill. Another player, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Which one of these players do you think has the best chance of returning first-round value that's going outside of the first round now that, these new guys have been pushed up?
I mean, not fair to say Christian McCaffrey, like he's borderline first round. He usually goes at least drops to like mid-second right now.
Yeah.
Obviously like there's always injury concerns with him. I mean, that's just the nature of, but like if he stays healthy, and you can say this about anybody, if he stays healthy, like on that offense, they don't have, Debo's there anymore. Like he's just going to see so much volume. They need him. So he's a guy that I could definitely see it. And I feel like he's an easy one. And then who was the Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Breece Hall.
Out of those guys, it's tough. I would go with the 2 Jets. I'm out on Tyreek. I'll just say this now. I'm out on Tyreek. I'm out. I'm very, very
out like you don't like him at his ADP, or out like he won't touch your team.
Well, I feel like he's going to get streamed up. He won't touch my team probably unless he falls. Because right now I think he's going to be like a third or second round pick. And I think he'll gradually, as the summer goes on, people will be more invested because they'll be like, it's Tyreek Hill. Very concerning last year. I don't care what anybody says. Like And the drop off sometimes happens so fast. We saw it with Julio Jones. His drop off happened so fast. And so for me, Tyreek Hill, I like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson where they're currently going. Definitely Breece Hall. I'll say Breece Hall just because he's going like 4th round-ish right now. Now, obviously
RB13-ish, RB13, 15-ish.
Well, honestly, even later, like once again, underdog. All right. So underdog right now, he's going like RB15. And I understand because this is another conversation, but like, guys, the top 12 running backs are just so good. Like, there's so many good workhorse. Like right now, Josh Jacobs goes as like RB12, which is crazy. Because Josh Jacobs is, but Breece Hall, like, there's obviously some concern because of what happened last year. Then you have Justin Fields, who we'll see what happens, and then them talking about this 3 running. But we know the talents. It's like the same thing with Travis Etienne, which I know everybody hates Travis Etienne, but like just 2 years ago, Breece Hall and Travis Etienne were RB2, RB3 in fantasy football. Like, it changes so much that now he's RB, like, going in the 4th round. So he's a guy that I definitely think could get, especially if he leaves next year, because I think he's a free agent. So if he leaves and or even they trade him and he goes somewhere else, I believe in the talent of Breece Hall. Just obviously the situation's a little bit muddy, but those sometimes make the greatest values for players.
I feel like Breece Hall is going to be one of those players we look at like, why the hell were we fading this guy? It's going to be one of those things where we look back and we see that he was RB2 last year or 2 years ago, and it's like the talent didn't just go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
the thing is, 2 years ago, like, he was getting faded because he's coming off the ACL.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. Oh my gosh, he's going in the 4th round, sometimes 5th round of drafts. And it's
insane. You can pair him up with one or 2 elite backs, and then you're like, okay, cool. My team has so much upside because if Breece hits, he's a top 5 guy. Like, there's no disputing that. And I think the one concern is, this 3-headed monster. And it's like, we hear this every offseason. Every offseason, there's a team that says, we want to get our backs more involved. And it's like, no shit, you want to say that, because what are you going to do? Say, hey, we're only going with one guy and tell everybody else we don't need you? That's not what teams do. It's a brand new regime. They got to figure out what they have. And if you're bringing over the passing game coordinator from the Lions, who obviously love to get Jahmyr Gibbs involved, who was a top 3 back in a committee last year where they used 3 backs. They used Dave Montgomery, Craig Reynolds. They were all used. It didn't matter because Jahmyr Gibbs was still elite. If we see that at a Breece Hall, maybe it's less usage in the run game, maybe it's more usage in the passing game. I am all for that. And to hear the way that the fantasy community is panicking right now off of Aaron Glenn saying they want to use a 3-headed committee. What team in the league uses a 3-headed committee? None. It's like 60-30-10. That's how it is. It's not 30-30-30. Like, that's not what teams do. So I just don't understand the panic off of Breece Hall. I think that Breece Hall is going to be a strong running back 1 for teams this year. And then I think too, just real quick, I think Tyreek Hill, I think you're off about Tyreek. I think he was dealing with that hand injury early on, never really got things going with Tua last year. He was dealing with the injury late in the year. Unless the injuries are going to start to become a thing and he's not taking care of his body, Tyreek Hill is still elite. I think you're off on that one.
I'm concerned. I think the fall off's right around the corner because he's a speed guy who relies on speed. And once the speed starts to go, he's in his 30s. Once that speed goes, I don't. Well, we'll see. I could be wrong. But one last thing I'll say about Breece too is that people were saying how inefficient he was last year, and he was a little bit inefficient. And then they talked about Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen averaged 3.6 yards per carry. Breece was at 4.2. So like Breece was much more efficient than Braylon Allen was. And he has the receiving chops that I don't think Braylon Allen has. So, yeah, I agree with Breece. And the biggest question mark I just have is, like, how good is this offense going to be?
Yeah.
I want to be shocked if Justin Fields gets benched at some point, and then who they kind of go into later in the season.
Justin Fields, we're going to run back that Justin Fields combo because I
love Justin Fields for
way
fantasy.
Higher than most.
Oh, I love Justin Fields for fantasy.
He's my QB7 right now. My ranking's my QB7 right now.
He's my quarterback, I think 12, 11.
Yeah. Well,
but
he's going to be higher than that by season start. You're going to say much higher than that. He's going to be elite this year.
The only problem is I feel like he'll get drafted higher. Like, why take him when I could take Dak Prescott or my boy Drake May
Fields could be
rounds later?
Drake May, we got to talk about him in a second. But Justin Fields, I think the reason why is because Justin Fields could be a top 3 guy this year. I see a world where he's like Jaden Daniels-esque. Lamar Jackson.
I don't think he'll be top 3. I think he could be like top 7, like where you have him. Definitely, like a great value.
Drafting his ass there. So you hold on. You mentioned Drake May. And Drake May, bro, is got a new weapon now. Stephon Diggs, Travion Henderson, new coach. So things are
Oh,
up
you
for
didn't
Drake
mention
May.
Kyle
And
Williams.
because I'm not going to mention Kyle Williams. The same
You
thing
better,
with
you better get to learn his name.
y'all do this every year. You did it last year with Jalen Polk too, so I don't want to hear it. We gonna
Hey, I
talk
didn't
about
like
him.
Jalen Polk. I like Javon Baker, but yeah,
Javon Baker, one of them. I knew it was one of these Patriots receivers you liked, but I think right now Drake May is the quarterback position in general. There's a lot of talent. Like I think
yeah.
Stafford and some guys that even finished this top 12
Even
guys
like
are going outside the top
Gino goes
15.
so late that I
Gino
wouldn't even
goes
mind
late.
taking
I mean,
Gino.
even the upside plays and I know you probably don't like any of these guys, but like Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, these guys that have like massive upside are going out. Michael Penix, they're all going outside the top 20 quarterbacks. So I think right now you can find a lot of value at the quarterback position. And Drake May, you mentioned it like he was going to be on your list. Is that a guy you're still drafting high? Because I think he's one of the guys that like in single QB leagues, I'm not taking a quarterback, and I could just find either Justin Fields or Drake May, whichever one falls to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. In like single quarterback leagues, 100%. I will say, in like, I know it's a completely different piece, just because it's relevant right now. Like in best ball, I don't find myself taking them a whole lot because it's hard to stack Drake May with some of the web. It's not hard. It's just I don't feel good about it. But I like for single quarterback leagues, 100%. I said this last year. Drake May will be one of my top drafted quarterbacks. I feel good about like you just look at Drake May's upside. I hate to compare him to this player just because this player is, otherworldly for fantasy football, but Josh Allen-esque, where we have a guy who last year, 13 games, and basically it's like, I wouldn't even say 13 because he left in the first quarter with that concussion. So like 12 games, Drake May had over 400 rushing yards. Well, guess who had just 400 rushing yards last year? Bo Nix had that. So did Caleb Williams. So honestly, there's arguably more rushing upside with Drake May compared to those other guys. And then I think obviously the passing touchdowns will be a concern just because I don't know how good this offense, like his weapons will be. I know that they have Stephon Diggs. I worry about Stephon Diggs just coming off the ACL tear. I don't know, and he's older. I don't know how good he's going to be coming off that ACL tear, right away. Yeah. But I have a lot of confidence in Drake May and his upside. So he's a guy that 100%, I'll have a lot of Drake May as we progress through the draft season. I think there's the upsides there with him.
I think it's there. And the one thing we got to see is him progress as a passer. We need to see what this offense looks like under Vrabel now. And the fact that they added Travion Henderson kind of lets me know too, like in the red zone, we mentioned Josh Allen-esque. There's a chance that we see him being used a little bit more in the red zone. Drake May, big body, a guy that is capable, will use his legs. So it wouldn't be surprising. We saw that a lot out of Tannehill. He would scramble in a lot when he was under Mike Vrabel. So I know he likes using mobile quarterbacks to be able to get his, offense going. And it wouldn't be shocking, especially in New England where the weather gets colder, there's the snow, to see that type of model being used. So if Drake May can stay healthy, he stays the starter the whole year, doesn't get knocked out with a concussion this year, I think that he can get into a groove and be the guy. And especially if Diggs is 85% of what he was last year, I think that's a good look for Drake May this season because Stephon Diggs last year before his ACL injury was still a top 12 to 15 receiver on average, especially once Nico Collins went out. So I think Drake May is going to QB 16 right now. You mentioned you haven't taken any of him in best ball. I've been pairing him and Anthony Richardson up and saying, fuck it. If I can hit with one of those guys, straight up, if I hit with one of those guys, it's a wrap with the early talent that I get. So for me, I like getting Drake May. He's going around like Trevor Lawrence range, which I think there's a lot of really Jordan Love is down there, CJ Stroud.
Yeah, so. even Justin Herbert goes in that. Yeah. There's just so many good. That's why this year I'll be passing up on the elite guys. Obviously, unless a Josh Allen falls a little bit. I'm already going to be out on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's going in the 5th round. No thanks. I'm not interested. I'm going to skip out on Mahomes.
I like it.
I still will take my guys though. Because Lamar was just stupid last year.
Yeah.
You have Lamar. My goodness, you have such a big advantage. Him and Allen. But you miss out on those guys. We talked about it last year. Jane Daniels was arguably a league winner. So you have, but there's just so many other quarterbacks where Dak, there's so many good ones that I'm okay with even drafting 2 and kind of just seeing, one of them just goes off and, puts up a top 5 season, kind of like Baker was last year, how good he was.
Yeah.
One of these guys can do something similar to that. So I like the quarterbacks a lot in those mid-range, mid-rounds, late mid-rounds.
I think I'd wait on quarterback this year. And like I said, we talked about Drake May. We talked about Tua at one point was like a top 12. Like you can just go, especially in your deeper leagues, like your 16-team or 14-team leagues. Like I think just waiting on quarterback makes so much more sense this year. And especially seeing that we got production like Bo Nix last year was a top 12.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's so many quarterbacks that can produce at a high clip. And who knows what we get out of like rookie Cam Ward this year or I just think that in general, I'm waiting on that position. One position we talked about earlier, Tyler, was the running back position. And, we talked about, Bijan, Saquon. Those are the names that we easily threw out as like the top 2 options. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think personally he's like locked for top 3. So if I had to say 3 running backs, those are my top 3 running backs right there. I think that might be consensus, top 3 running backs.
It should be, yeah.
Now comes the other part, right, where you got like Derrick Henry. You got Christian McCaffrey. And then a name, Devon Achane, who played really well last year, but there were some inconsistencies throughout the year. At times he was a starter. At times he took over that starting role really quickly. What are you feeling about Devon Achane this year? Because I know it was your guy last year where he was going like second, third round, more second round than anything, but second, third round. And then now he's pushed up to like back end first, high end second. I think Devon Achane, a player that I've typically faded in the past, now that he's proven he can stay healthy for 2 years, I'm kind of in on him. And I'm kind of in on him at like, if you get him and for whatever reason he does break out, he's Chris Johnson. Like at some point they got rid of Raheem Mostert. Mike McDaniel loves using his running backs. And yeah, I know they've added running back Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright. Like neither of those guys are really a threat, in my opinion, to take over a massive workload. But you're talking about a running back now who's been 2 years in the league, put on some muscle. We know the track speed isn't gone anywhere. If this offense can get things figured out and maybe they do go a little bit less Tyreek Hill, now we're talking about a player who could potentially having like 300 touches. If we get 300 touches out of Devon Achane, holy shit, we might be talking about a game-breaking season. So I'm looking at this as like, if you can get Devon Achane in the second round, we might be having a Chris Johnson type fucking season out of Devon Achane, bro.
No, 100%. The big thing is, especially for full point PPR leagues, like he had, I think it was 87 targets last year. So, which was good for a second amongst running backs. Like this is just a guy who, the efficiency went down because he was at 7.8, which it was never going to stay at 7.8 yards per carry.
No way,
like that's that's crazy. But it went down to 4. Like a lot of people are losing their minds because they're like, he still had 4.5 yards per carry, which is that's fine. Like, what are we talking about? And the reason being is because he took on a bigger workload. And then you also had that little stretch there where he wasn't. That whole Miami offense just really suffered when Tua got hurt, where it wasn't good whatsoever. It was so brutal. So obviously you still have that with him that, Tua could get hurt. But like if this offense could just stay healthy, like Devon Achane has all the skills, honestly, to be the RB1 in fantasy football. I would not be shocked because like you said, he has the big play potential. He has the weekly game-breaking upside where he can score 50 points in a week. Single-handedly win you your week because of that. So he's a guy that just in the second round, you talked about him potentially going first. If he even goes in the first round, like late first round, 100%. Anytime in the second round, sign me up. Like I'll take him. Like in a lot of underdog drafts, I'm able to get him and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like that just seems like it's
ridiculous.
It's just a cheat code. Like those two guys are so good. So absolutely, he's a guy that I could definitely see being RB1 that I'm sure I'll have even a lot this year if he's a second round pick.
I feel like Devon Achane for me, I've never been a guy to like really advocate for smaller backs, but once they prove to me, like, and that's the thing for the way that I draft in fantasy is like sometimes I need you to prove to me that you can be a star. And Devon Achane has proven he can be a star multiple times now. So I know early on in his career it was like, he had the heavy game where he had all the touchdowns in the big game. But now last year he proved that he can be an immediate force in the passing game. And it does look like Christian McCaffrey-esque with the receiving numbers, a guy that could potentially have like 100 catches that's maybe a little bit smaller. Like that's the kind of season he can have. And he didn't have 1,000 yards last year and was a top 5 back. So he can get, 1,000 to 1,200 yards rushing. We can get the increase in 8 to 10 touchdown range as far as rushing touchdowns. Add another 5 touchdowns in the receiving game. Like, bro, he could be a 2,000 total yard guy, and if he does, I mean, we're talking about big plays this season out of Devon Achane. So, especially they're going to throw some new wrinkles in the offense. I like where Devon Achane is, and like I said, I haven't previously been on him, and I don't know if I take him top 3, but like if I get him RB4, 5, 6,
I think like you said, the top 3 should be locked in. Like those,
I think it's.
I feel like those are pretty safe top 3.
Those
obviously,
are
injuries can
RB1
happen.
candidates.
Yeah, those are the and Devon, and like you said, then you have the next tier that it can be RB1. Devon Achane falls in that range, so absolutely.
What about my guy? Because I've always been a big Alvin Kamara guy, and we talked about, we haven't touched on it yet. Derek Carr suddenly retired. There was rumors that he was going to miss this season, that the shoulder injury was more severe than let on. And the team took Tyler I don't know how to say it. Shook, yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. I always say show, like Showtime. But yeah, Tyler Shook, like obviously, who knows what he's going to be. Spencer Rattler last year. We know it's going to be one of those two guys because Derek Carr is out now, but this does affect the Saints offense. And obviously, like, I've been a big Alvin Kamara advocate, still will be. He's still getting pushed outside the top 14, 15 running backs right now. So I'll still be on PPR. But for me, Alvin Kamara is a guy that like continues to get disrespected. I think this offense will still go through him. How do you feel about Alvin Kamara? I know last year you weren't in on him. He proved he was still elite. Do you feel like Alvin Kamara is being disrespected, being where he should right now? Like, talk to me about Kamara.
He's tough because honestly, last year he was good, but what happened with Alvin Kamara is kind of what we've seen a little bit, where like down the stretch, it's just not as good. Like he opens up the season 22 points, 44 points, and then it kind of fizzles out where down the stretch, it's like 18, sure, 15, 12, 15, 12. And like you said, in full point PPR leagues, absolutely, just because he'll be, he's a safe bet to be amongst the league leaders in targets and receptions at the running back position. But without Derek Carr, I do have big questions because I think Derek Carr gets a little bit disrespected. Do I think he's a very good quarterback? No, but I think he's an okay quarterback. Like he's okay. Tyler Shook, like kind of like JJ McCarthy. This could be, I mean, right now it looks like it's arguably the worst quarterback room in the NFL. Like this could be the worst quarterback room in the NFL. And it's so bad. And you look in, they're the worst offense in the NFL, have the least amount of touchdowns. So I think that's the one part where it's just going to hurt Kamara. Now, there could be a chance where he just falls too low, where he's a pretty good value for where he's going. But it's just, he's a guy that I don't see a ton of upside with this year, just because of the quarterback situation. And also, I think this team just wants to be bad. Like, they need to just rebuild.
Right?
Yeah, like they just, and this has been long overdue for this team. So they just like, all right, let's just embrace it now. Derek Carr's done. We'll just go into next season, be bad and everything. So I don't want to say I'm totally out, but there's probably a chance that I'll be out depending on where the ADP goes.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's been going around RB 15-ish to RB 18.
He goes around Kenneth Walker. I'd rather take Kenneth Walker personally.
And I'm not mad at that, but for me, like what Alvin's been able to do on bad offenses to me, and you get a guy in Kellen Moore too, and this, obviously, new head coach here, things are going to change. So he knows how to typically open up offenses. It wouldn't be surprising to see a veteran receiver or a veteran quarterback in this room at some point as well, potentially be a trade, or maybe somebody gets cut and we see a veteran guy in here. So it wouldn't be surprising to see that. Kirk Cousins, I think, like, who knows what it looks like. I don't, Jameis has been a part of the team. So, like, there's obvious names I think could be veteran presences in this room. But I think Alvin Kamara is one of those guys that's, at some point you're going to be right. And he's going to fall, he's going to fail. And he's 29 years old on a bad offense. I typically take guys like Alvin Kamara, and I probably will still rank him inside of my top 10 to 12 running backs. It's just who I am typically for redraft. But I could also see the ceiling being very capped this season, which is something you gotta kind of recognize as a reason why I'm like Achane, that the ceiling's crazy, and then Kamara, I'm like, I get he's a floor play to me now, and so you gotta have a lot of upside around him. So we'll talk about how to build those rosters in a while.
Do you feel less like in a half point or just standard, right?
I think in standard I would probably stay away. In
Yeah.
half point PPR, I would let him fall to me. And I think in PPR, he's a player like if I have enough upside, I'd take him at where I think he should be ranked. And if I haven't drafted enough upside, I might wait till later to take him. It's tough, man. It's tough.
No, absolutely. And I'll say this last thing too, because you talked about the age. The 2017 running back class, they've been so good for so long, but you have like him, Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey's getting up there, like James Conner, like all these guys, and they were so healthy last year. Like all these guys, the running back situation was so healthy. At some point, these guys the wheels are gonna fall off. And I know I said this last year, and I'm hesitant to say it again, but like we're getting to a point where these guys are just gonna fall off, man. Like they can't keep putting up these monster seasons like they have been. So maybe this is the year that it happens. But
I don't know. The only thing with Kamara was like it was a hand injury last year, and then Derek Carr was out, so it's like
the whole team got hurt.
Yeah, Olave was out, Shaheed was out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of injuries to the offense, and so I don't know. I at this point, I'm not staying away, and I really like Alvin Kamara. I think I want to see how this season, the offseason, progresses before I like fully commit one way or the other. But right now, and name I typically like, I'm just gonna have some concerns. And then also, Tyler, we talked about the rookies and shit. We had some really nice rookie receivers last year. Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas were standouts in a class that was full of talent. And there was one receiver, Tyler, that didn't live up to the hype. He was going first round, Marvin Harrison Jr. He was supposed to be the best out of them all. And those three, it's going to be and we can even add Ladd McConkey to this. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing works out. Out of Malik Nabers, I think you've kind of already alluded to where you're going with this, but out of Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas, Marvin Harrison, Ladd McConkey, all these receivers, great talents. Which one do you see as the best receiver coming out of 2025, 26 season? Because they all have incredible ceilings. We've seen it. And I think all their situations are actually very good. All of those receivers have nice situations. Which one do you see as the top receiver coming out of the draft this year?
Malik. And the reason being is Malik last year broke the rookie target record. Well, technically, actually, Brock Bowers broke it. Brock Bowers has the most targets among rookie pass catchers, whatever you want to say, of all time. But Malik Nabers also missed 2 games. So you have to factor that in, that he missed 2 games, 170 targets last year for Malik Nabers, which is disgusting. He was 6 in points per game, over 18 fantasy points per game. And he did that with the worst quarterback room in the NFL, like at least one of the worst, you can say. So for me personally, I look at the situation and, Russ is there. You have Jameis Winston. Honestly, I wish it was Jameis Winston because I think Jameis Winston gives them the most upside. Yeah. Like it would just be crazy. But it's drastically improved, even though you might not think Russ is that good of a quarterback anymore. He's much better than what he had last year. So now you have Malik Nabers, who's the focal point. Like Brian Thomas Jr. got some competition. Kyler just, I don't know how many touchdowns Kyler's ever going to throw. I think that Marv is a good value for where he's currently going. But you could argue, he has Trey McBride, who might be, the number 1 target there. So for me, like Malik is just undisputed number 1 target in an offense with a head coach that I believe in, who knows how to run an offense, who has now 3 quarterbacks. One of them, I think that can be, all of them are really improvements over what he had last year, outside of maybe Jackson Dart, but just everything's in line for Malik to go absolutely crazy. And I would say Malik Nabers this time next year, we're looking at him as Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson S type of player and be that elite tier kind of guy. So Malik Nabers going to be my guy that I'm going to flag plant. I'm going to have a ton of Malik Nabers this year if I get the mid to later picks.
I don't mind that. Like, I think Malik Nabers is obviously he's an elite talent and outproduced my expectations for year 1, even playing with Daniel Jones and backup quarterbacks the entire year. But, you look at what Russ does, and Russ does typically take care of the ball a little bit better. We've seen him force feed receivers at times, but then there's also been times where he spreads things out a little bit more. There's been times where he's aired it out downfield, and then there's been times where he's kept it a little bit more conservative. So it depends on what Brian Daboll does. And obviously, one of the biggest game plans for them is getting Malik Nabers involved. I also like Brian, and I'll say this. I think Malik Nabers has the safest floor out of all of those four, obviously, that we just talked about. Brian Thomas, to me, has the highest upside, probably a little bit more cap now because of Travis Hunter being in Jacksonville, and obviously Trevor Lawrence needs to play at a consistent rate, which he hasn't been able to do over the first few years. But Marvin Harrison, to me, I think this is one of those players we easily forget about the talent that we have, right? We've done that in the past with like Saquon Barkley at times where you get a talented player and they kind of get pushed down a little bit because they disappointed. We wanted him to be something. We took him early on, and then they like categorically disappoint us, right? He was a wide receiver 30 last year. But I think when you look at the talent and probably this entire offseason, Marvin Harrison's going to be in the lab. I know Kyler's got to be better than what he was last year. I believe in Marvin Harrison. This offense, as much as Trey McBride is a great tight end, you don't want to go through your tight end if you're trying to win football games. You want to go through your elite premier receiver. And if Marvin Harrison hits, the reason why I like him even more than Malik Nabers, especially at their ADP, is because if he hits, he's a 1,600, 1,800 yard receiver. I don't know if I can say the same about Malik Nabers. I think Malik Nabers at his peak, even with another 30 targets, is probably a 1,500 yard guy. Whereas Marvin Harrison, if he gets another 60 targets, 70 targets from what he had last year off his 110 targets, we're talking about a guy that's probably a 1,600 yard, 1,800 yard receiver with like 10 to 15 touchdowns. So where he can win in the red zone, and obviously Kyler has to be a lot better, where he can win in the red zone, downfield, the body's a little bit more, he's more physically imposing. I think Marvin Harrison has a chance to have one of them seasons where we're putting him back in the top 5 receivers looking next year.
I mean, I disagree. I don't think he's going to be that good. I think like best case scenario for him is like more of a back end wide receiver one. That he's a high end
best case scenario.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be. The reason being is I just don't think like what's the max amount of yards that Kyler's thrown. I just don't know if Kyler is going to
like right around 4,000. Right around 4,000.
Yeah, if he's even has he hit? Yeah, he hasn't even hit
49, 50 or something like that.
Yeah, so like I don't know if he'll. And the problem with him too is that he takes passing attempts out of the offense because he runs the football. So he's a mobile quarterback. So I'll say this with Marv, I definitely do think that he can be a good value though. 100%. Like he can be a guy that can finish as a wide receiver one that people kind of have forgotten about just because he burned them last year. And you see this all the time in fantasy football where people get burned one year. They're always like, I'm out, never drafting you again. So he's one of those guys that I just think, in my opinion, Malik's got the highest.
The question I have, right? The question I have about Marv specifically, right, is if the upside was there to take him as a top 10 receiver last year, which a lot of people had him ranked in the top 10, why is that same upside not being respected this year? That's the question.
I think the only problem with Marv, in my opinion, last year, and I didn't draft a whole lot of Marv, is because I think he was being taken at his upside. Like I don't. That was the problem with him last year, is that you're hoping for best case scenario he's like a back end wide receiver one, and that's what you're drafting him as, is a back end wide receiver one. So for me personally, I understand what you're saying because now he's falling in drafts, but I also think that we've learned our lesson. I don't want to say learned our lesson. It's just I think he was already being drafted at kind of his peak, and I think that's where he can be, is more of a back end wide receiver one. So I think it's just people learned, all right, let's put him back here. And once again, I just think he has tougher target competition than Malik does.
Well, that's going to be my flag play. We talk about flag. I'm going to try to have Marv every league I'm in, bro. I'll probably take him around earlier than he should go, but Marv is going to be one of them.
Where's he going right now? 4th round?
4th, 5th round, yeah. Like wide receiver.
We'll see how, once again, we talked about this a bunch. We'll see what ADP, because ADP is nowhere close to being worked out. We got at least like a month and a half till people kind of get back into the flow a little bit. So
yeah, we got plenty of time to talk more, and you'll see me and Tyler a lot more talking off-season strategies and even just having general football conversations at some point here. But for now, that does it. Tyler, any last words before we get off, my man?
Malik Nabers, wide receiver one. Let's go.
God, here we go.
Jamar Chase 2.0. Let's go, baby.
Marvin Harrison, wide receiver one season. That's it for this time. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.